Written over 2,000 years ago in ancient Greece, the philosopher Aristotle wrote the first ever theories about literature in his work Poetics. Fast forward to the 21st century and writers are still influenced by Aristotle. Why? Because the ideas he laid down are timeless and universal. They work, especially in The Great Gatsby. Here's how. According to Aristotle, there are 6 elements of tragedy: plot, character, thought, diction, song and spectacle. In The Great Gatsby, Nick Carraway moving into the house next door to Jay Gatsby is the inciting incident that kicks off the action. As the plot proceeds, we discover that Nick is the link that Gatsby has been looking for because he is Daisy's cousin and can arrange a reunion between her and Gatsby. Complications arise because since they last met, Daisy Fay has become Daisy Buchanan and has a daughter with her husband Tom. Plot, Aristotle tells us, is the main element of tragedy. It rises from an inciting incident through a stage of complication, reaching its peak at the climax, then falling in a denouement to the end. The main focus of the plot becomes apparent when we discover that Gatsby expects Daisy to reject her past with her husband. Sadly, Gatsby's idealistic view is too simple. As time moves on, we grow and develop, but he chooses to ignore the complexity of life in his quest to win back Daisy, expecting her to be just as she was when they first met 5 years before and wipe clean her time spent with Tom. This is Gatsby's hamartia, a Greek word meaning to miss the mark. It is his tragic flaw that will ultimately lead to his downfall. As the plot progresses, all goes to plan for Gatsby. He and Daisy reunite and rekindle their romance while Tom is oblivious to what is going on. Gatsby insists that Daisy tell Tom that she doesn't love him. On the agreed day, despite some tension, Daisy continues to display signs to Gatsby that all is well. However, as soon as Tom realises that his wife has been having an affair, the plot quickens and tension rises to a peak that ends with Gatsby and Tom's showdown in the Plaza Hotel suite. Daisy breaks down and admits that she cannot live up to Gatsby's expectations. He struggles to comprehend Daisy's admission that she did, in fact, love Tom. This is the moment of peripeteia, meaning a reversal of circumstances or turning point of the plot. After the peripeteia comes an unravelling towards the catastrophe. A catastrophe in tragedy is a momentous tragic event that signals the failure of the tragic hero because of their hamartia, their fatal flaw. In the novel, when Tom challenges Gatsby about his illegal activity and involvement with Maya Wolfshine, it becomes evident to the reader that Daisy is now lost to Gatsby. The reversal of favourable circumstances unravelling towards catastrophe is further reinforced by Myrtle Wilson's death. This, in turn, is followed by Gatsby's stubborn clinging to hope despite the desperate circumstances he now finds himself in. The following day, Gatsby continues to put himself in the path of danger, refusing to leave despite Nick's advice. Finally, after agonising hours of waiting, Gatsby's moment of anagnorisis arrives. The anagnorisis is when the tragic hero finally recognises their true identity or true nature of their circumstances. Nick imagines Gatsby finally accepting that Daisy is staying with Tom and that the dream he has carefully nurtured and grown over the past 5 years is dead. This metaphorical death is followed closely by his literal death at the hands of George Wilson. Now the audience and Nick experience what Aristotle calls catharsis. Catharsis means the purging or releasing of emotions, particularly pity and fear, as a noble character falls from grace. Gatsby's death at the hands of Wilson and his pitiful funeral with hardly anyone in attendance create catharsis. Nick, as the narrator, has decided to write everything down in an effort to release himself from the anger, pity and injustice he feels because of how others treated Gatsby. The readers also feel this release too. In a tragedy, the plot revolves around a tragic character who is noble. In The Great Gatsby, Fitzgerald transforms a poor farmer's boy from North Dakota into a noble character. Little James Gatz transforms himself into an ideal version of himself, renamed Jay Gatsby. Gatsby bases his new identity on the mythical heroes of the American frontier. Gatsby becomes a self-made man in New York in his pursuit of Daisy, but, unlike others in the city who only think of themselves, Gatsby absorbs the qualities of his heroes, and his honourable actions and virtues are what set him apart. To achieve his goal of being with Daisy, Gatsby has acquired a huge amount of wealth in a short space of time. This he has done by less than honest means, and so Gatsby is not entirely perfect. Gatsby is, essentially, a good man, but his flaw, his hamartia, has caused him to stray down the less desirable path of New York gangster life. This is an important point that stays true to Aristotle's view of the ideal tragic hero. If Gatsby is portrayed as too pure, the audience reaction to his downfall would be too strong, because it would be very unjust. Similarly, if Gatsby is portrayed as too sinister, for instance, if he also wore shirt cuffs made from human teeth and freely talked about gambling and shootouts like Wolfsheim, then the audience would feel no pity at all when he died, because it would be justified. Rather, Gatsby is pitched in the middle of these two extremes, and this is what makes a tragic hero relatable, while also evoking pity when the catastrophe occurs. Pathos is the suffering of a character that evokes the audience's emotions. When Gatsby realises that his dream was just an illusion, he suffers greatly. Wilson's gunshots come almost immediately after, allowing the reader to then experience catharsis as Fitzgerald immerses them in the failure of Gatsby, of Wilson, and of the American dream. Another component of tragedy, according to Aristotle, is thought. Thought provides a larger purpose beyond entertainment by elevating the story. One of the ways that Fitzgerald elevates the Great Gatsby is with his use of symbolism. Daisy and the green light represent wealth, status, and a door that remains closed to most. Gatsby strives for acceptance into this secret society. His failure represents the impossibility of achieving the American dream. Fitzgerald goes further when he ends the novel in first-person plural, indicating that we're all like Gatsby. We repeatedly fail and try again. By ending the novel in this way, Fitzgerald gets us thinking about this story as a tragedy on a societal scale, with implications for us all. Diction refers to the word choices, sentence structures, and grammatical decisions made by the writer. Aristotle advises that the writing style should not be too wordy or overpower the plot. In The Great Gatsby, poetic language and imagery brushes against dialogue steeped in realism. The novel is surprisingly short, as Fitzgerald packs dense meaning into a plot that is steadily leading us towards the looming catastrophe. According to Aristotle, songs can be included to embellish tragedy. They can heighten emotion and enhance the meaning being expressed in the plot and dialogue. Fitzgerald coined the term jazz age about the era in which The Great Gatsby was set, and in the novel he alludes to a number of songs from that time. The lyrics of the songs embellish the action and themes of the story. Spectacle or visuals work in tandem with song to provide us with Gatsby's legendary parties, which, in turn, help to develop the central themes of the novel. Through spectacle, we see the lengths Gatsby has gone to in his pursuit of Daisy, while it also provides an insight into the behaviour of the nouveau riche who attend. Fitzgerald is careful to set Gatsby apart in scenes of spectacle, for J. Gatsby is a tragic hero. He is a good man with noble intentions whose flaws ultimately lead to his downfall. The Great Gatsby is a perfect example of a tragedy written for modern times about an ambitious man who dares to dream. More about Gatsby's fatal flaw, his hamartia, is explained here in this exploration of Gatsby's preoccupation with the past.